from the heart of Melrose. I'm Coy Jandro. We are joined by John Livesay and Sam Haine, the creators of Slow City Blues, one of the craziest comics I have read in quite some time. I am so excited to dive into this book because it is quite crazy. I want to know from the jump, what was page one? What was the inception? Where did this idea come from?
So I think it's like 8 or 9 years ago now. I almost got a job at a video game company, and then I was told no, as a lot of people are told. And so I being a fan of the Dresden Files and Fables, and they were doing the company was doing the adaptation, The Wolf and You, or The Wolf Among Us. I was like, well, I'm gonna do my own noir fantasy. And so one day I'm just kind of I worked at a Mexican food restaurant. It was like over the hill, and I was like, and it just hit me as I'm like dropping off a burrito. I was like, that's it, and it just popped out. And I went to my producing partner, Mike Manning, and I went, I got an idea for a comic. I love comics. I know you love comics. And he goes, I know one person in comics, and
John.
And John reads the story, and I think he'll be nicer than it really was, because it was like the very first iteration. He goes, this is good, I think. I need to get a second opinion.
Saw potential. There was hope there.
Yeah, I knew it was something.
Yeah. So once you saw the pages, what was your first impression of what you wanted to do with it? Like, where did your creation come from?
We needed to find how the art was going to go and the look, and originally I was not going to do any of the artwork except for maybe a random cover here and there. But as things progressed and we tried out different artists and this and that, just time got away from us. And so when we did eventually lock in on Sean Mall, our penciler, I was like, well, I've got to ink this because I'm going to be too critical and it's going to be driving me nuts if I see something that I need to do different. So it'll just be on me to make sure it's going to be the way I see it. And it was a good vibe, and Sean and I fit great. And it's hard when you got to find a good link with your pencil and inker. And once you get it, the flow goes, and that's rarely something you got to work out. It's like it gets to the point where he doesn't have to put so much down.
Yeah.
Because it's technically there.
It's all looser.
It's there.
Yeah.
I can see it. I just have to pull it out.
And that energy, because of the spontaneity, because of the not being like,
yep.
That's fantastic. And it reads. The pages are really vibrant.
It saves some time because he doesn't have to meticulously do every stroke and make sure it's camera ready, I guess. Or
right.
To make sure you can print it. So
it looked a lot different. The finished product looks a lot different than those first 13 pages that I saved up to commission.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like, but also
a lot different. This, but
with more.
Yeah.
Because the energy in the pages is really vibrant, and that comes both from the energy of the dialogue, but also it's a very, I'm going to do my best not to spoil a thing, so you'll see me vague booking. But it is a very creative world that is unique to itself, while also being very referential to other things we will say.
Yeah.
Where did the idea of including so many pop culture references come from? Was that the original idea, or was that like while you're writing it you want to be like, oh, this, and this?
It was a lot of, I think I saw an interview with Brian K. Vaughan when he was creating Saga, and which I'm still waiting for. Brian.
55, Brian. Where's 55?
I asked you about this
On the plane on New York Comic Con.
Still waiting.
3 years hiatus, Brian.
I watched an interview where he said when he was going into Saga that he didn't want to be so referential anymore after why, and the Paper Girls came.
It was in conjunction.
Like
Paper Girls was ending as hiatus was happening.
So because that in itself was so referential, it was like that just made sense to me, and I grew up. My dad read to me every night till like an ungodly age.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Currently.
He just cut me and he just flew back to
He's
Arizona.
leaving the store.
Like, oh,
wow.
there he is. Yeah, no.
We appreciate it.
And so it just made sense where it's like if we're going to be in this guy's imagination, a la Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
right?
It's very like it needs that.
He's clearly a movie junkie, and that gives him a flavor, which makes it more like you're invested in that world. Now, are you guys of that specific niche of pop culture? Both of you, were you like sharing while you were collaborating, like what your favorite,
I think that was just
I
me.
was too busy doing this.
He was
Fair.
too busy, yeah.
You might have heard a song or two, but it wasn't like, put this soundtrack in.
Yeah, if something, I think maybe if there was something, I don't know, let's work it out. You know, I don't. It was really.
I had written the first
Yeah.
fight scene in issue 1, that bar brawl.
Yeah.
That's fine, you can spoil that. The bar brawl. 2, and I think there's like a caption box where it's like, turn on Sammy Hagar's heavy metal.
Yeah.
I listened to that like ad nauseum, and I tried to tell him, I was like, you should ink it to get the energy, and he called me and went,
You're like, issue 1, we're out of this creative flow. I'm gonna do my
It
thing,
was
you do
taking
your
me
thing.
long enough to render out the flytrap gang.
Now, can I say what the Flytrap Gang reference? Because they are fantastic.
Please, go ahead. Yeah.
So there is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Flytrap Gang, and it was one of the first laugh out loud moments I had with the book, because you don't know from the cover there's going to be that many pop culture moments. So you're reading the book and you're like, wait, are those? I recognize. No, and then it's just crazy from there. When you were getting those pages, was that a spark of can't believe they actually?
I just feel like I was like, it was
So much rendering on the pages.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, because as you've seen, there was so many different supporting characters, and I was really insistent on making everyone have their different look to
Right.
all the line work and rendering, and we had this one hairy character and another hairy character, and I'm trying to make their hair and fur look different.
so many different types of renders.
There's a lot of texture in this book.
Yeah, so that was my thing. I was pretty much just doing that.
Yeah, and there's so many animal types in this book,
Yes.
and there's so many different characters that represent different archetypes while being these animal archetypes, and the texture is so important to the story. We'll
and
say,
everybody needed their own look.
Right.
Their own look and feel.
Speaking of which,
And just even doing those dragon guys, like, I gotta make these.
I brought you a
these
little
guys.
bit of pre-swag.
oh, look at that!
For you and Jake.
It begins. Look at the pre-swag, dude.
Stickers.
We've talked a lot before this interview how much we're comic book people. There's a certain culture of comic bookdom, and this book reads like, the world's aware of comic books, the world's aware of movies, but there's a certain flavor of comic book people that's really in this book. But to me, the lead is Riggs meets Constantine in such a lovely way. Like, John Constantine is one of my favorite.
I had not thought of that's a good.
Like, he's
That's
got
spot
that.
on.
Because
Spot
Constantine
on.
to me is one of the best dealing with magic is too old for this crap characters, but it's
Yeah.
also got that Riggs, like, you don't push him. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were playing with those textures with a character that's such an archetype from other mediums, what was that like for you to differentiate him so he pops in the page like he does?
Just he was he had that old bomber jacket with like the wool collar, so I was doing that with a different pen, and I really had a specific look. And since I was at Top Cow forever working, and Mark Silvestri's still one of the greats.
Yeah.
And the way he was rendering hair, I just kept looking. I had these old Xeroxes just sitting next to my on the floor and on my table, and just looking and looking and looking, and I did this real look I wanted to do for the main character's hair, and I just did that Silvestri, like blunt lines and just like crisscross. It almost looks like he just cutting his hair with a razor blade, like a straight edge.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of texture and just like grit to it.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's wash, maybe it's not, but it's always.
You can almost smell it. Like,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
His hair?
Yeah.
Don't smell it.
You don't smell his
Yeah,
head.
you can-
Well, the bar, you can almost smell the bar. Like,
Yes.
there's enough
Yeah.
texture in the
There's
environments as well as the characters. It's like,
There's enough grime.
yeah,
on those pages, yeah.
which I really liked because it reminded me of like the 80s Kurt Russell era of action movies
Yes.
where you're like, I can
Yes.
smell that page.
Yeah.
Like there's a nest to that.
That's
What we wanted, I wanted that like John McClane, like skin of his teeth. He's always getting. Can I say ass?
Oh yeah.
He's getting his ass kicked.
he just pulled out of the skin
I
of
like
his
the
teeth.
double pause after confirm. Like, oh, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it.
I will say it.
Committed.
Yeah.
Now, with this book, you guys, it launches on the 7th,
Yes.
but you can already, dive into reserving and getting into it. You guys brought some stuff, and I love the creation of comic books. So I want to give some slight teases without giving away too much.
What would you like to see?
I would love to see any of issue 1 before the last page reveal, because the last page to me is one of my favorite pages. That last page makes me so happy.
All right, yeah, there we go.
Love it.
So this book is going through a very unique distribution model. Can you guys speak to the process of starting that?
Yeah. I mean, we were looking around, and 2020 was
What it was.
Yeah, 2020
happened, and we needed to find an avenue because we've been working on this for damn near a decade. I said acid. I'll say damn.
Going PG-13.
There it is. And
It was really serendipitous, you know. And so Zoop was looking for books, and all of our issues 1 through 5 were done. All the covers were done. That is the first, when we talk about inception of things, that is the first thing I thought of.
So
I wanted that cantina scene. With
this to
everybody.
me is the smell I spoke of.
Yeah.
You can smell this page. And what I love about this page in particular is you've got the foreground chaos and flavor, but if you go background, it doesn't get any less detailed or insane. And that's what I really like about this book is, you know, it's a testament to you that you never let anything go away. Like, there's no fading out. It just keeps going. So I really love that if you zoom and / me zoom, it just gets crazier. And one of my boys there on the top right.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
I'm just so happy this exists. What was the process of deciding when you were done with a page? Because this, to me, holding it feels like I don't know when done is.
I would just do it, and you know, I had this thing where I kind of had to work at night because and my daughter was born a few years ago, so I couldn't do anything during the day, so I just was drawing all night and not going to bed until 3:30, 4:30 in the morning. But if I had a good flow going with my wrist and I had a good look or a good quill, I said to keep going and going and going, and then there was a handful of times I didn't get in bed till 5 in the morning, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I go, "No one's page's got to get done. If I don't finish it, it's not going to get finished." So if it's that rare thing, like it takes a while because I wouldn't get like 1 or 1:30 in the morning. All right, it's flowing. You just got to go and go and go. And then he told me, he's like, "How long did that take you?" I was like, "I think it took me 15 minutes, but I had to get to
The 15
that
minute
moment." And then it just comes out because if you get a good motion and flow, if you got like a good quill, you don't stop.
Right.
You don't stop the flow.
It's that Picasso quote, the him making doodles.
Yeah.
So Picasso was later in life, and he was already Picasso. He was already famous. And this woman approached him at a bar, and he was doing sketches and then throwing them away at the bar.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh my God, can you sign this for me? I want this." And he's like, "All right, $10,000." And she's like, "You just doodled that in 5 minutes, and we wanted 10." And he's like, "No, I had to get to this point in my life,
Yes.
plus those 5 minutes. I'm Picasso."
You put your 10,000 hours in.
So you got your 15 minutes, but you had to get to that
Yes,
15 minutes.
Exactly.
Oh, I love this page. So the Teenage Mutant Ninja Flytraps are one of my favorites, and look at the dynamic of this page, like the energy that comes out of this. Pure happiness this brings me. Like this reminds me of the 90s Image era when they were making so much depth of field that you were like, assaulted when you read the comic.
That was the best stuff. That's on the image rendering.
There he is.
Let's move.
So Moof is our, I would say, second lead.
Yes.
So our second lead, Moof, this smile says it all. This is your guy here. You're gonna understand. He is basically our number 2 throughout the story, but without giving anything away, no one is what they seem in a very specific way that you find out at the end of the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
But this character in particular, he has a bunch of escalating arcs that give him a power at one point that I think is essential to the story.
Yeah.
There's a hint of the character, what his power might be. But this character to me was so much fun because I kept wanting to know what he looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kept wanting to understand what this guy was and like what his dynamic was in a specific way. Where'd he come from? Where's Moof?
He is the inception of.
Was there a human that inspired this man?
There actually, it was weirdly enough, it was John in a weird
way because he.
Don't be me. No, it was John in a weird way. Because at first he was a raccoon and he was going to be called Rack, and I called him. I went, "I'm going to do Rack," and he goes, "You dummy! There's already a raccoon." I go, "Who?" Kind of indignantly, "Who?" And he goes, "Rocket Raccoon."
Bradley Cooper?
Oh yeah.
That's probably where I
Like osmosis, it
into
I
my
feel like this
head.
would be popular.
Yeah. It's like, that's something. I was like, well, okay, well, what else is there? It's like, okay, well, there's Pepe Le Pew, and he got canceled, and there's Flower from Bambi, and that's kind of like it as far as pop culture skunks go. I was like, but he's, it's like we want to give him this like
Smooth.
He's a Lothario.
talking- Exactly.
Like this is
The
Stallone post-Rocky pre-90s.
Bingo. Exactly.
he is the clever to John's smarts.
Right. The street smarts versus
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
So right here, one of the things I really enjoy about this, and we've talked about it a little bit, is the references both comic and in movie alike. But this right here, Were there ever any moments where you worried about trademark issues? Were there ever any phone calls?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a caption in issue 1 where we do I just do a riff on some Disney stuff, and I have to put it up there. Like, I hope the joke isn't funny enough for the house.
There's a line of dialogue that's been slightly augmented, but with characters like this, have there been any close calls, like on-screen characters? Okay, good, because I know there's some creativity, a license that's allowed. Because this is beautiful.
And now it's really annoying because I'm looking at that first panel and I should have grayed out that stuff right there into the black. I should have went in back and
This page is never done.
I know, that's why I keep them packed away, because if I keep looking at them, I'm going to go back and I'm going to touch up and touch up and touch up, and just now it's going to...
It won't be this June 7th, it'll be next June 7th.
No, now I can't, now I got to make sure I'm put away.
So I have a question, but I don't know if we want to reveal anything, and it's about the jacket. Do we feel like talking about the jacket
Oh,
safe?
let's talk about the jacket.
Okay. The Room of Requirement jacket is such a fun concept.
Thank you.
When you were working on it visually, were there any lines that you had to be like, okay, how does this fit in here? The item fit in here while visually working for, or was it enough magic that you were like, it doesn't matter?
No, it's just comic books. It's just, I mean, you have an unlimited budget to do what you want, so it still works. I was more concerned about really, it was just a collar.
Yeah.
And doing
rendering on that.
and just doing the turns and turns and make it look like it was either fake wool,
Right.
just that really cheap bomber jacket, and it's a fake wool, and it's just beyond. You've seen it. It's so worn here. So
Yeah.
just going and just doing like these little lines, just throw this, and then that's all I was really concentrating on, is making sure that was it still had the same look, all the pages. There was never, I wasn't gonna cheap out in like one panel, like it wasn't as lit, or it wasn't as like you can see all the little things in there. So I was gonna make sure it was the same thing in every panel appeared in, and it appeared all the time.
Yeah,
It's in, and just like with Moof, it was just nonstop with the hair on his arms and his face, and
What I really dig is when you look at like animated films and the modern CGI stuff, the texture on the fur is what
you
keeps
can
it.
almost touch his arm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this looks like the Pixar level where you're like every single panel's got to be this detailed.
That's very generous.
But like you spend
I don't know if I would really-
you got your 10,000 hours on just an arm in rendering.
But,
So
I had a super old quill, and I did some tests, and I was like, all right, you can get you can use whatever you want. You're going to use a quill, you can use a brush, you can use a cut toothbrush, a Q-tip, as long as you can get
Prison
that look.
style.
Shivs.
And I had this really old quill I had when I was doing the Flash in like 2004, and it was super hard. I don't know, maybe it's a better batch of metal to use, and it was really hard. And I was like, I was just doing this, and I got that very dense, coarse look to that.
Yeah.
It looks like it's just been.
It keeps going
Lived
back,
it.
but
It's only
it's
at.
Oh, the Room of Requirement jacket.
Yes.
Where did that come from in your writing it? Like, what was the idea behind it?
I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons guy.
And
Fair.
so the old bag of holding.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was such a neat idea, where it's like it gives him what he needs but never what he wants.
Yeah.
So it's like a pair of giant pruning shears as opposed to like a weed whacker or a chainsaw or
Whatever.
Yeah, the needs versus wants is so apparent in that fly moment.
Yeah.
And I love so I got these all 5 of them and I read them right through, but I had 4 kept glitching on me because the internet. So I actually really liked that happen because I went to 5, I looked at the first page and I was like, maybe I'll get with context. I'm sitting with these guys in a week. I gotta know what's going on. And then like I restarted my computer and everything was fine. But I like that there's not an issue you can skip. Some miniseries, you could read 1, 2, and 5.
Yeah.
And some miniseries, like the twists and turns don't really land enough that it matters. What was the idea behind the pacing so every single issue had a cliffhanger enough that it really demanded you pick up the next one?
To Brian K. Vaughan. Because I love, like,
His writing is amazing, and he always seems to start with that, like, start and end with a splash.
Yeah.
So you want to start and end with a splash. Or the pacing in Todd McFarlane, how he'll, like, slow something down before a big page reveal.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that the old school, like the Agatha Christie stuff, it lends itself to that, what is that Japanese term? It's like, unyukyu, I'm going to butcher that. But the 3 acts where it's like you always make sure there's the fractal theory, peaks and valleys.
Right.
But it seems if we're going to tell a mystery noir, even if it's action adventure, you gotta have it all work one after the other, and it seems to break up really nicely, into a trade paperback or in floppies with fractal theory. And then really it was my years at the Shooter School of Storytelling that just hammered in clarity and hammered in story.
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. It was a lot of shoot, a lot of gym.
What's your background in storytelling? Like that led to this. I didn't know you went to Shooter School. That's cool.
It's like
It's the unofficial. It's like the in like Kill Bill 2.
Yeah.
the Pai Mei. It's very
Yeah.
much like all
Stick no carrot, but it's like I love that. I learned that way.
Yeah.
Growing up in like Catholic school.
The Joe Kubert School of the Streets.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
It's just
went
like,
there.
Yeah?
I did.
Oh, I love that
and,
institution.
It started
That's
with the
With screenwriting, and then it was like, well, I don't like this. This is expensive, which comics is not cheap either, at all. To do it,
The imagination is endless.
and
The
that's
cost
what it
is high.
is the budget is,
Yeah.
for like you just carte blanche.
Yeah.
But then it went to plays and musicals, and it's definitely been. I've been writing for like 11 or 12 years now, and then this is my first.
$100,000 shot in a movie. Imagination on paper. The difference.
there it is.
And so it's just kind of from that, it's from all that. And let me say that the fluidity of that we can actually.
Show.
Is this acceptable?
Yeah, because that's not really that much of a spoiler out of context.
Yeah,
but-
out of context.
yeah.
So when I did all my questions, I had written them for each issue, and then I realized I can only do them from the first issue, and this is not from the first issue. But know that this is coming. Know that this is as intense as things can get, and the texture of this, the 3D-ness of it all, is quite the book. And that's actually one of the things I really liked about the book is it makes you stop and hold a page. Like when you're reading the book, you can't just flip. And a lot of comics you can because they're just a pace story. But with your slow down, speed up, the fractal approach, you stop here. You think about it.
And it's the whole what I was. You really take for granted when you're doing films or theater or whatever you're writing. Fluidity of motion.
Yeah,
And that's one of those things where it's like you gotta pick your shots, and it was like that was.
a moment.
That was a moment.
Yeah.
Clearly, yeah, that was.
Or the double page spread.
Yeah.
In the bar, it's like you gotta really pick your shots, and that was definitely something that Jim hammered into me. It was like you gotta pick the it's like the Jack Kirby, like the most kinesthetically pleasing
Right.
pictures.
And on the other side, the Kubert School is so known for dynamic formatting. There's so much in like,
Oh, yeah.
this frame is so much more important than style choice. And I've really enjoyed this new era of comic books where experiments can happen from page 1 to page 2 instead of like, this is a 9-panel book. And like, you just live in that space. Instead, Tom King's just like, what if it's a 3 and then a 9
Yeah.
and then a splash? What was it like developing, collaborating with the artist on that with his pacing? Because I imagine like you're telling a certain story and then you're shaping how much attention's drawing your eyes here, plus the artist has already framed it out. Like, what's it like to go like, okay, how do I edit this, so to speak, to my...
Sean and Sam did, they're doing all the heavy lifting. So when I come in, they've already got most of it down. It was very, very rare. I think there was like one thing, I think maybe once or twice, I was like,
Yeah.
maybe this, but it was almost nothing. I
Okay.
mean, so Sean's great. He did, like I said, we clicked, and he just got it down. And once in a blue moon, he's like, oh, well, maybe, when I'd send him a shot or I'd text him a picture when he saw the scan. When I'd send him something, he's like, maybe we lighten this a little bit, or why don't we darken this up? So yeah, he'd have some notes or two here and there, but it was pretty rare. So we worked great together.
I mean, that was one of the things too. Is like this is my first comic, and so having to traverse that learning curve. Like, I want to do all this in a page, and Sean will call me and go, that's 15
Panels not too much. It's like, well, we
Nope.
could do like 6 Criminals had that 69-panel one. It's
Oh,
like,
man.
yeah, but
As a
also-
joke, man.
That's what it was. It's like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And
Oh
then-
man, Sex Criminals is such
that
a
was the
fascinating
other
format.
Thing like he'd call me or text me. He's like, are you done with that page? Are you done? I was like, dude, I go, you know how many panels are on this, right? I go, you got to cool it a little bit,
Yeah.
because I can't get it done this quick if you want. So there's still as much on here, and I have to make every panel look good. So it was funny. I was like, I go, when it's done, you'll get the scan. So just, you gotta relax.
So what was, I mean, this, you wrapped in January, roughly.
My part, yeah.
Your part in January. And then was there anything that needed to be tweaked before published, or anything you guys had to go back over? Anything that's changed from that, not first draft, but like completed draft to now?
Yeah, I mean, bringing in David Barron,
Colors.
absolutely phenomenal. He really like knocks it out of the park in one. But 2020 happened, and the world had changed, and we need to all, like look to the future.
Sure.
That's, I hope, what people take from the book is introspection and empathy.
Right.
We brought in some sensitivity readers and development people, and we brought in a story consultant by the name of Artisha Cooper, and she helped really polish out the rest of it and made sure that our intent, that our impact matched our intent with what we were trying to do.
When you go over those characters that way, do you find anything new in them that you hadn't realized you'd like played with?
I think the things that I subconsciously do then come to the surface, because then she's there kicking the tires and go, well, why this and why that? And
Yeah.
You'd see, you either, this is a gym thing. It's like you either have to have a good reason, or you better be ready to throw it out.
Right.
And so you have to. So every bit, every panel, it's like the beat of story is like, well, why?
Right.
And then you have to justify it, and not obviously in a defensive way, but in like, this deserves to be here. Otherwise, why is it?
If it's in the story, it's in the story. Why is it in the story?
Exactly.
Was this issue 4's first page? Which I remember this being a splash, but I don't remember which issue it was. 5's first page.
5's first page.
So this character is such an interesting element of the story, because it is a tiny screen time, so to speak, but impact out the wazoo.
Yes.
What was it like writing a noir kind of in reverse? Because the way the story goes, you obviously where it lands, but having to put certain characters import and having the audience keep track of who's important, how do you tell that visually? Because comics are such a visual medium. Like, how do you get that across?
It's just like in the development and the layering process of it breaks down into like fractal theory, right? And so it's where do we need, and then and Julia is that character's name. It started very much as a function of the story, and then she really grew into, got her own depth, got every, and so it's like the more she went, it wasn't just like the dame who came in, or it's like the inciting incident.
While there are 20s moments, it's never the dame.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Is not, and so she just kind of took on this life of her own, and as I was developing from the very first one into what we see now, it just got more weighty and more like her character got more, and it was just and then she also has this like very great like juxtaposed like dichotomy inside of her.
Where it's like
The twist, which I'm avoiding.
I'm trying to get
no, and that's what the thing is. Like, there's a twist. The last page of issue 1 is my second to favorite twist, just because I wasn't expecting it so early. And then the twist involving her. I can just say that. That's easy. The twist involving her is my favorite twist, which I enjoyed because it's later on, and so I got to be like, oh, it's not done. There's another thing. How would you describe this book to someone that's never read a comic? And how would you describe this book to someone that loves comics? Without giving those things away, because I've been trying not to. It's on you now.
Okay.
I would say it is, to people who haven't read comics, it is Who Framed Roger Rabbit meets The Cell.
That movie with Jennifer
And Vincent D'Onofrio?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then to people who have read
Comics, I would say it is like some of Bendis's noir stuff mixed with Fables.
I'm into that. I like that.
Like gold,
yeah,
like
Scarlet.
Goldfish. Yeah.
Yeah. Rob Liefeld's wife is one of the triplets in The Cell.
Really?
Tying it all back to comics.
There it is.
The triplets in The Cell. One of those is Joy. It's the coolest little comic tie-in. So now it's all canon.
Canon.
I love that. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is definitely a tone that I picked up really early on. And Bendis's noir stuff is when he goes indie, I'm always so happy. I love his mainstream too, but like his indie work. I always want to end with comic fans talking about other things they're consuming. What else are you guys enjoying?
We got a surprise.
Oh,
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to see. You got to
Two things.
You got to capture on this so you can actually see the look on his face. So, okay.
oh, look at that! I love Finch
These
so
are the
much,
two.
dude. Holy.
That is that is one of the covers. That's our A cover for issue 1.
This is so gorgeous,
And
dude.
Zoop, we are with Zoop, who is putting it out. We are doing a virgin black and white variant for the first 48 hours for the early bird special.
This is like I feel unworthy to hold. This is stunning.
Yeah, Dave is a juggernaut.
He's one of my favorites of all time.
Nice.
His Moon Knight is when I close my eyes, what I fear. His Moon Knight is everything. Oh,
That is just for you to not show the camera,
dude.
but I know you know who that is.
Yes. When does this get announced?
That comes out. That gets announced June 2nd.
You'll never know until June 2nd.
It's just about that big, too.
But he knows.
Dude, this is gorgeous. I'm so glad you said not to say it out loud as soon as I had it in my hand. That is...
But what we're also doing is anyone who goes
And signs up for the pre-order and then orders anything for during the early bird special, whether it's the Finch Ultra Exclusive variant or the hardback or the we're doing box sets, so you can get the box sets of 1 through 5.
Oh, great.
You are automatically entered into winning a original page, specifically that original page.
Okay, so if you want to own this, starting now or starting June 2nd? What date is this?
Starting now until the 7th, whoever
Until-
signs up.
And then if you buy something during the early bird special, one lucky person will win that original piece.
This is great, man. I love that you guys are so invested in the actual building of comic books. We were talking before we went on recording here. The world of comic books is so much more complicated than people think, and it's so much like the creativity of comic books is why I love it, because it's so many less cooks in the kitchen. You know, there's when you watch movie credits, it's 100 people for an indie, so there's a lot of different opinions. Comic books are 5. You know, so you get to make your vision, and you, dear viewer, can own a piece of that. That is a direct... You can never own a piece of a movie to this scale. This is 1/25th of one issue, so it's 1/130th of the entire thing, which is insane. So when you guys are finished with an issue or the run, or what's that closure feel like? It's like having a baby? Like, what's it like to be like, okay, finished? Like, is there...
I'm just getting some sleep. I'm not going to bed so late, so it's fine.
Welcome to
Yes.
trying to operate in this world.
Yes.
I am an unrelenting perfectionist, and I will go back, and writing is rewriting, but when we're done, tuck it into bed, it's going to print, it's too late, you know, we're
Yeah.
sitting here with you, I get to go, and I'm so, like, enamored with my own world, that it's like I want to go to the next one, until the next
Yeah.
story, so it's like I already have the next story arc written.
Yeah.
You know, and then the next one is planned out, and then the next one I have so it's like, how do I tie it up? What can I then piece in and do the threads? And
Well, before we get to other comics, I do want to say your marketing, I think that's so genius. Can you describe, one, the quality of these books, but the way you're getting attention drawn here? Because you've got some of the craziest collection I've seen.
Yeah, so, and since I'm such a longtime comic fan and collector, and I know what it feels like to go to the shop every Wednesday, and you're plunking down your money to buy these books, and just every week, just trying to do all that stuff. So I made sure and put 1,000% into this, because if, we want people to buy it, I want them to really feel like they're really spending their money and they're happy with it.
Yeah.
I really want them to really, and again, with the cover lineup, I know I keep talking about that, but I really did my homework, and I wanted to make sure and get all of the best guys, A-list cover guys in this
Yeah.
thing. And I did it in a way where
called in every favor.
I mean,
they're all a little, they're nobody, like we were just saying earlier, comic fans are the most picky.
Right.
Pickiest guys. So there is not one avenue of talent on these covers. It'll appease everybody. Everyone will be happy. And they're such different styles, and so we've got different painters, and like you saw, like the hand-drawn stuff,
Yeah.
the digital stuff. It's all top-level guys, and even more surprising that I got them to do it, because I just cold emailed most of them, other guys that I didn't know.
incredible.
And it was stunning. I got yeses. So even I got to describe, like, all right, here's this huge skunk.
Yeah, the elevator pitch on this is quite the...
I'm describing it, but in the little reference I gave them, some of these guys, like, the best covers they've ever done. And I will put that barn on to
how
anybody.
I describe when people ask, like, oh, the covers, I go, because I like to brag about John because he has pulled out all the stops. It is, you only see this lineup on a book when it's like a crossover event from the big two.
Yeah, it's already like done. You know all the characters, and now like it's that point.
But
This
it's
is
the quality of all these.
Covers of like who you could get. It's like you only see this
Yeah.
from like
One thing I actually did pick up from another big time creator is Mark Miller. All his books basically got main huge dudes doing covers, and that was one thing I really made sure to take notice of.
Yeah.
And what the shops were picking up, and and like you're saying, I'm a huge collector, so I always like getting that rare variant.
Yeah.
So, and like these guys, like their covers are moving, they're always getting reordered. So I wanna
That's
make
so
sure,
smart.
I wanted to make sure they're getting their money's worth.
you can't judge a book by its cover, but you
But
can
these-
make the book sing with its cover.
Yeah.
Like you can get a different attention to it.
Yes, sir.
And then I can vouch that the inside is also good, so I can recommend the other things beyond the cover.
Yes.
What are you guys consuming right now? I want people to pick this up and know what world inspired it. What are you guys enjoying in the world of comic books?
What am I getting now? The Batman the Detective.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tom
yeah.
Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With, Andy
Hubert art?
Yep. And Sandra Hope's going to be starting to ink, I think, third issue. And it's been great.
Yeah.
So now the story's been really good, and anytime the Kuberts are on a book, it's.
It's
His
a
new
slam
Wolverine
dunk.
stuff.
Yeah, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Daredevil's been pretty cool. I get so much stuff. I'm just like, Better Ray Bill's been great.
Yeah,
Daniel
agreed.
Johnson.
That Chips and Rescue Daredevil's on my top two as
Yeah.
well.
No, and his stuff's so energetic. Even like when there's a slow talkie page, so you can still.
You're still feeling the
you can
yeah.
still feel the movement, like it's just ready to go. I know. I guess
Those are a good three. I just want to know that people are street cred for these guys. They're reading stuff
I
and
go to the
making
shop.
every Wednesday, so
Yeah.
I'm still picking up a ton of stuff.
He's
but I'm
on.
just-
Wednesday Warriors, man. Wednesday Warriors.
I'm still getting all the amazing Spidey stuff.
Yep, I'm a collector. That's forever.
That was good.
As long as they're printing them, I'm buying them.
Yep. No.
Exactly. Man, I know there's more stuff. I'm just really having to.
I mean, when you ask someone that reads 100 comics, what are the three? Like, it's hard. Like, when people are like, what are you reading right now? I'm like, the comic books?
Well, I just have stacks.
And even he's seen my students just stacks of books and stacks of books, and then like every Wednesday, like
That
It
night
doesn't
I
get
was
smaller.
just read them and read them and read them, and sometimes maybe it's just speed reading. But
Yeah.
like, I know last week I got a stack of stuff. I got like 8 books, and I was like, all right, I gotta read these.
Deadly Class is back. That's been my.
Yeah.
I reread Deadly Class on the way to this new after hiatus. Not as long as Saga, but
yeah, it's a good book.
yeah, it was like a year and a half, and I was like,
Yeah.
guys, but Saga. What about you, man? What are you diving into?
I literally just here. I just picked up a whole bunch of Kate stuff.
Nice.
So
I weirdly enough, and I know you've read this. I'm like just starting. It's not a comic, but the Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah,
the
Name of the Wind.
Kingkiller
Yeah.
Chronicles.
My favorite almost trilogy.
Yeah,
So it's only
Saga
so much
like
time,
hiatus.
but I definitely.
definitely. I definitely picked up a bunch of Donnie's stuff.
Nice.
Here, literally.
Oh, that's
Here.
fantastic.
So-
Donnie, we got you.
And I
So-
missed out. I still need to get Silver Surfer Black 2, 3,
It's
and
incredible.
4.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I don't know how I just forgot. I think I had like those weeks I was at the shop, I had to like really in and out real quick. I couldn't
Yeah.
stay and like just fumble around for 20 minutes. And now they're going for way too much. And
Have you seen the deluxe edition, the hardcover? Because it's an oversized and the Tradmore art.
Yeah.
I'm a floppies guy, but that oversized
me
art.
too.
And we got to meet Trad at the New York Comic Con 2019, so it was
Nice.
very nice. It was very, I guess, relieving when we had shown pages from this other.
Guys.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I was like, all right, I guess it's working.
I guess we're making a comic book.
Yeah. So, but
It's good. That's good. Okay.
That is, I mean, especially when your peers like when people you're a fan of become your peers through creating, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. And it's a truly worthy book. I really enjoyed the fact that my homework was something I enjoyed so much, so I didn't feel like I was like, oh, I gotta read 5 of these. Opened issue 1, and I was so invested. And you never know with indie books or people you don't know beforehand. Like, when you pick up a Donny Cates book, you got expectations.
Yeah.
But if you don't know other people's work, it can be like, I'm reading 5 of these? Because you've got 40 other books. This flew through. It is engaging. It is super interesting, the world you built, and there's so much texture and depth in both the writing and the inking and the art. It's incredible. It's great stuff, guys. So I'm very excited for everyone else to be able to get it on June 7th. Jump in early, though, because, like, you want this page, frankly, if it leaves the store. You want this page. And the covers, that's such a genius idea, and you guys know I love Finch. So there's so much coming at you. Slow City Blues is quite the time. Check it out. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.